Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone.
Welcome to EnglishClass101.com's English in 3 minutes, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn English. Hey everyone, I'm Alicia. This series explains some easy ways to ask and answer common questions in English. It's really useful and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn some different ways people will ask you, "Where are you from?" First, though, where are you from can mean many things. It can mean, what city are you from? Or what state are you from? In fact, Americans ask this question to each other all the time to learn what part of America the other person comes from. Of course, though, it can also mean, what country are you from? If you want to answer this question, there are 2 ways to do it. You can say, I'm plus your nationality, as in, I'm Japanese, or I'm Brazilian. Or you can say, I'm from plus the country you are from, as in, I'm from Italy, or I'm from Thailand. If you're from a really famous city or place, you can say that too. For example, I'm from Beijing, or I'm from New Delhi. Many times, though, Americans won't ask, what country are you from? Or even, where are you from? In many casual situations, they will say it in a simpler way. Where are you from? This is just like, where are you from? But they take out the are. Where are you from? You can use this too in casual situations. Of course, in the United States, as in other parts of the world, people may be a little more indirect because they want to be polite. To do this, they might ask you if you are from the place where they meet you. For example, if you meet someone in New York, they might ask, "Are you from New York?" Or if you are in San Diego, they might ask, "Are you from San Diego?" Many parts of the United States are very multicultural, so asking the question this way avoids what could be an embarrassing mistake. You can answer this the same way you answer, "Where are you from?" Just add a simple "no" in front. For example, you can say "no" plus "I'm" plus nationality. "No, I'm French," or "no" plus I'm from plus country. No, I'm from Russia. Now it's time for Alicia's advice. Since the United States is very large, people you meet may take great pride in the place or region they come from. If you ask someone about where they're from, they may respond by saying something like West Coast, or the East Coast, or California, or the South, or the Midwest. If they answer in this way, it usually means they are interested in talking more about their region and how it differs from others. In this lesson, we learned some different ways to ask, "Where are you from?" Do you know what to ask when you don't know someone's name? Of course you do. But what do you say when you have forgotten someone's name? Find out next time in the 5th English in 3 minutes lesson. See you next time.
Welcome to EnglishClass101.com's British English in 3 minutes, the fastest, easiest and most fun way to learn English. Hey everyone, I'm Gina. This series explains some easy ways to ask and answer common questions in English. It's really useful and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn some different ways people will ask you, "Where are you from?" First though, "Where are you from?" can mean many different things. It can mean, "Which city are you from?" or "Which country are you from?" In fact, Brits ask this question to each other all the time to learn which part of the UK the other person comes from. If you want to answer this question, there are 2 ways to do it. You can say, "I'm," and then your nationality, as in, "I'm Japanese," or "I'm Brazilian." Or you can say, "I'm from," and then the country you are from, as in, "I'm from Italy," or "I'm from Thailand." If you're from a really famous city or place, you can say that too. For example, "I'm from Beijing," or "I'm from New Delhi." Of course, in the United Kingdom, as in other parts of the world, people may be a little more indirect because they want to be polite. To do this, they might ask you if you are from the place where they met you. For example, if you meet someone in London, they might ask, "Are you from London?" Or, if you are in York, they might ask, "Are you from York?" Many parts of the United Kingdom are very multicultural, so asking the question this way avoids what could be an embarrassing mistake. You can answer this the same way you answer, "Where are you from?" Just add a simple "no" in front. For example, you can say, "No, I'm," and then your nationality. "No, I'm French," or "No, I'm from," and then your country. "No, I'm from Russia." Now it's time for Gina's tips. The UK is a diverse place. People you meet may take great pride in the place or region they come from. If you ask someone about where they're from, they may respond by saying something like Yorkshire, Lancashire, or Hertfordshire. If they answer in this way, it usually means they are interested in talking more about their region and how it differs from others. In this lesson, we learned some different ways to ask, "Where are you from?" Do you know what to ask when you don't know someone's name? Of course you do. But what do you say when you've forgotten someone's name? Find out in the next British English in 3 minutes lesson. See you next time!
If you're tired of knowing and speaking the language at a basic level and want to express yourself fluently just like native speakers, then you'll need to learn grammar. The problem? It can be tricky to learn. But don't worry, in this guide you'll discover how to learn and master grammar with the Grammar Bank. 1. Where to get all of the grammar explanations you'll ever need. 2. The best way to learn grammar that's right for your level. And 3. How to expose yourself to real examples until the rules become natural to you with a study tool called the Grammar Bank inside of our learning program. But first, if you don't yet have access to our program, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description. First, what is the Grammar Bank? The Grammar Bank is like a grammar dictionary, except online. It's a database of the must-know grammar rules and explanations that makes it easy to look up specific rules and learn them. Look for it in the top menu of our site. 2. How do you learn grammar with it? The best way to learn grammar is not to just study rules, but to learn in context and hear the grammar used in real life. And that's exactly how you learn with our lessons. You learn a quick conversation and hear how the grammar rules are used within that conversation. 3. What if you come across grammar that you're not familiar with? Or what if you want to review a specific rule without going back to redo a lesson? That's where the Grammar Bank comes in. You can look up grammar rules and get the explanations, examples, and links to lessons where we cover these rules. You can also sort grammar by learning level. So if you're an absolute beginner and want to make sure you know all of the absolute beginner grammar rules, you can do just that with the Grammar Bank. You can also sort the rules by spelling, category, and lesson series. And if you want to get used to the grammar patterns so that you can use them in conversation and become fluent, the best way is to expose yourself to examples as much as possible. Grammar is hard at first, but gets easy once you get used to it with enough exposure. Be sure to access the related lessons inside the Grammar Bank and listen to the native conversations that use the rule as much as possible. So, if you want to become fluent and speak perfectly, you'll need grammar. Take advantage of the Grammar Bank inside of our learning program. But if you don't yet have access, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to sign up.
Welcome to EnglishClass101.com's English in 3 minutes, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn English. Hey everyone, Alicia here. In this series, we're going to learn some easy ways to ask and answer common questions in English. It's really useful and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to ask what someone's hobbies are without using the word hobbies. You've probably seen the question, "Do you have any hobbies?" or "What are your hobbies?" in an English textbook before. However, native English speakers almost never use the word hobbies when asking about them. A much more natural way to ask the same question is, "What do you do for fun?" Let's practice this question. What do you do for fun? What do you do for fun? You can also ask, what do you do in your free time? What do you do in your free time? So how would you answer this question? Let's look at how native speakers would do it. The easiest way is to say, I like to, or just, I like, followed by what you like to do. For example, if you like watching movies, you could say, I like to watch movies, or I like watching movies. I like to watch movies, or I like watching movies. And if you like golf, you could say, I like to play golf, or I like playing golf. I like to play golf, or I like playing golf. You can emphasize how much you like your hobby by adding a word like really in front of like. For example, I really like watching movies. On the other hand, if you want to play down how much you like something, you can say kind of. For example, I kind of like playing tennis. Now it's time for Alicia's advice. If you don't have any special hobbies or don't want to be specific, a good way to reply is, I like hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. I like hanging out with my friends and stuff like that. Just use I like and add hanging out with my friends and then add and stuff like that. How do you answer the question, where are you from? It doesn't even have a verb. We'll cover this and more in the next English in 3 minutes lesson. See you next time.
Welcome to EnglishClass101.com's British English in 3 minutes, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn English. Hey everyone, Gina here. In this series, we're going to learn some easy ways to ask and answer common questions in English. It's really useful, and it only takes 3 minutes. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to ask what someone's hobbies are without using the word hobbies. You've probably seen the question, "Do you have any hobbies?" or "What are your hobbies?" in an English textbook before. However, native English speakers almost never use the word hobbies when asking about them. A much more natural way to ask the same question is, "What do you do for fun?" What do you do for fun? You can also ask, "What do you do in your spare time?" What do you do in your spare time? So, how would you answer this question? Let's look at how native speakers would do it. The easiest way is to say, "I like to," or just, "I like," followed by what you like to do. For example, if you like watching films, you could say, "I like to watch films," or "I like watching films." I like to watch films, or I like watching films. And if you like golf, you could say, "I like to play golf," or "I like playing golf." I like to play golf, or I like playing golf. You can emphasize how much you like your hobby by adding a word like really in front of like. For example, "I really like watching films." On the other hand, if you want to play down how much you like something, you can say kind of. For example, "I kind of like playing tennis." Now it's time for Gina's tips. If you don't have any special hobbies, or you don't want to be specific, a good way to reply is, "I like spending time with my friends," and stuff like that. I like spending time with my friends and stuff like that. Just use "I like" and add "spending time with my friends," and then add "and stuff like that." How do you answer the question, "Where are you from?" It doesn't even have a verb. We'll cover this and more in the next British English in 3 minutes lesson. See you next time.
Learning to carry a conversation is vital to mastery of any language. Even beginners can quickly learn conversational language well enough to carry on real conversations with native speakers. Of course, beginners won't be able to carry a conversation the same way they could in their native language. But just knowing a few tips, like which questions to ask to keep a conversation going, are all you need to speak and interact with real native speakers. Before we get to specific suggestions, let's first take a closer look at how having real conversations in your target language is so vital to your mastery of the language. Communicating with other people is the very point of language, and conversation comes easily in our native tongue. For beginners or anyone learning a new language, conversations aren't easy at all, and even simple greetings can be intimidating and awkward. Nothing kills a conversation faster than long periods of awkward silence, so you need practice and specific strategies to avoid them. When you know what to say to keep a conversation going, communication becomes much easier, and you make a better impression on your listener. Nothing will help you learn to speak a language faster and truly master the language than having real conversations with native speakers. Conversations quickly expose you to slang, cultural expressions, and vocabulary that force you to absorb and assimilate information faster than any educational setting. And that's a great thing. But how can you possibly have real conversations with real people if you're just starting out? Here are 3 proven methods that even beginners can quickly use to learn conversational language to make a great impression and avoid awkward silences. First, ask questions to keep a conversation going. For beginners and even more advanced speakers, the key is to ask questions to keep a conversation going. Of course, they can't be just random questions, or else you may confuse the listener. But by memorizing a few key questions and the appropriate time to use them, you can easily carry a conversation with minimal vocabulary or experience. And remember, the more conversations you have, the quicker you will learn and master the language. Second, learn core vocabulary terms as quickly as possible. You don't need to memorize thousands of words to learn conversational language. In fact, with just a couple hundred words, you could have a very basic conversation. And by learning maybe 1,000 to 2,000 words, you could carry a conversation with a native speaker about current events, order in restaurants, and even get directions. To help you get started with this, check out our 2,000 common words, also known as our core list. These 2,000 words are all you need to learn to speak fluently and carry a conversation with a native speaker. Third, study video or audio lessons that you can play and replay again and again. If you want to know how to carry on a conversation, then you need exposure to native speakers, and the more, the better. Studying video or audio lessons is ideal because they provide contextualized learning in your native language, and you can play them again and again until you achieve mastery. Our instructors have created more than 2,500 video and audio lessons that you can play over and over. And the best part is, they don't just teach you vocabulary and grammar. They are designed to help you learn to speak and teach you practical everyday topics like shopping, ordering, and more. Although it may seem intimidating for a beginner, the truth is that it's very easy to learn conversational language. Just learn a few core vocabulary terms and which questions to ask to keep a conversation going. Our language learning program has the world's largest online collection of video and audio lessons by real instructors. Plus, tons of advanced tools to help you learn to speak and carry on a conversation quickly. Just a little practice and exposure to real conversations or lessons is all it really takes. So, if you're ready to finally learn a new language the fast, fun, and easy way, sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Signing up takes less than 30 seconds, and you'll start speaking from your very first lesson. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Kandan. Hi Kandan. Kandan asks, what are the differences between ask, ask to, ask for, and ask about? Okay, this is a big question, so let's break this into parts. On the most basic level, to ask means to request information, right? You want to get information from somebody else. We can also use it to get favors as well, like making requests for actions and so on. So we're going to get into this. But basically, to ask means you want to get something, information or an action from someone or something else, right? Okay, so with this in our mind, let's take a look at the other examples that you mentioned. The first one, which I want to change, is ask to. So we do not use ask to. You need to use something after ask. We use to after ask when we use a person after the word ask. So for example, ask you to, or ask my mom to, ask my friend to. And we follow this with a verb. We use this pattern when we want to ask someone to do an action for us. Like, I want to ask you to check my homework, or I asked my mom to move the car. So we do this when we are asking someone, so we want to get something from someone, we are asking someone for an action. So we cannot say ask to. This is incorrect. Remove that from your vocabulary. Ask someone to is the correct way to use this. So ask someone to, infinitive verb. Ask someone to move. Ask someone to check. Ask someone to go, and so on. So this is how we use ask something to, or ask someone to. Okay, so let's continue to the second example you mentioned, ask for. So we use ask for when we want to get something from someone else. So for example, you might ask for the menu at a restaurant, or you might ask for someone's agreement in a debate or a discussion style situation. So when we ask for something, we want to get that thing. I asked for the menu. I asked for help, and so on. So as you can see from these examples, we follow ask for with a noun. So ask for means you want to get that thing. So very different from ask someone to, right? Okay, so with this in mind, let's go to the last one that you mentioned, which was ask about. We use this before a topic of conversation. For example, I want to ask about the meeting, or I want to ask about the contract. I want to ask about topic. So we use this when we want to begin a discussion about something, or maybe you want to do some kind of check-in at work or at school. I want to ask about topic of conversation. So when you use this ask about pattern, you're going to follow it with a noun phrase as your topic of discussion. This might be a very long phrase, but it's a noun phrase. So for example, I want to ask about the company's recent dress code policy changes. That's a noun phrase, right? So you'll follow this with a topic, and the topic is a noun phrase, something for discussion. So to summarize, to ask, the most basic form, means to request something from someone. That could be an action or an object. To ask someone to do something means to request an action from someone. To ask for something means you want to receive a physical object. And to ask about something means you want to get information about a certain topic. You are looking to receive information about a certain topic. So this is a very quick breakdown of all the different ways that we can use ask. So I hope that this answers your question. Thanks very much for sending it along. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Salahuddin Khan. I hope I said that correctly. Hi, Salahuddin. Salahuddin says, hello, Alicia. Is the contracted form of and an? Interesting question. So in written English, you put here in your question, an apostrophe. The answer to that is no. So we do not have an official, written contracted form of and. We don't say an apostrophe or anything like that. However, when we are speaking, it often sounds like we contract the word and it often, in American English, sounds like n, like we just drop the d, and sometimes it sounds like we drop the at the beginning of and as well. So for example, if you're at a restaurant and you hear somebody ordering very quickly, they might say, I'd like to get a cheeseburger and a milkshake. So in that sentence, we didn't clearly say, and a milkshake, right? A cheeseburger and a milkshake. It sounds very stiff when we say it like this. Instead, the speaker said, I'd like to get a cheeseburger and a milkshake. In that sentence, it's an n, a very, very short n that connects the two. So no, we do not write n, just the n, when we are, writing text messages to our friends or in emails to people. But in speech, we do use this n a lot in place of and. Of course you can say and. I'd like to get a cheeseburger and a milkshake, please. That's also totally fine. It's totally normal to use and. But I will say that when we're speaking quickly, it tends to sound much more natural if we use this n to connect words with and. So I hope that this answers your question. Officially, there's no contracted form like you mentioned, an apostrophe. But when we are speaking quickly, we often use n instead of and. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Evgeny. Hi, Evgeny. I hope I said your name correctly. Evgeny asked, what are the differences between spend money and waste money? Okay, nice question. Yeah. First, I want to look at waste money. So waste is kind of the key word here. When you think about the word waste, you might think about trash or garbage, right? Like a garbage can or a wastebasket, something like that, right? This is the image you can keep in your mind when you hear the expression waste money. It's like putting your money in the trash can or putting your money in the wastebasket. So in other words, you use your money for something that is useless, or you use your money for something that you don't get anything from. So maybe you give somebody money for a business investment, but they just run away and they take your money. You could say, oh, wow, I wasted my money, right? So it's like you threw your money into the trash in that situation. So we use waste money when we want to talk about something that we didn't receive any benefit from, right? So the idea of waste is the key here. To spend money, on the other hand, doesn't have this feeling of throwing money into the trash. We can spend money in many different ways. It's like the most neutral way to talk about using your money for something. You can spend your money at a restaurant. You can spend money on food. You can spend money on clothes, whatever. Sometimes we spend our money on something and then later we feel, oh, actually, I wasted my money. So sometimes our opinion of how we used our money can change after we use the money. As in my earlier example, if you think, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 on this investment. I'm going to use $1,000 for this investment. I spent $1,000 this month on this investment. And then later you realize the person ran away with your money. You can then say, oh, I wasted money on that investment. So you might say spend at the beginning when you use your money, and you might change to waste afterwards. So this really depends on how you feel about the way you used your money, maybe after you get the benefit or after something bad happens, yeah? So this is the key difference between waste money and spend money. Spend money just means to use it in some kind of way. To waste it means to throw it away, like in the garbage can. So I hope that this answers your question about the differences between these two expressions. Thanks very much for sending it along. Okay, that is everything that I have for this week. Thank you, as always, for sending your questions. Remember, you can send them to me at englishclass101.com/ask-Alicia. There's also a link for this in the YouTube description, so please, please, please make sure to send your questions there. Don't put them in YouTube comments or Facebook comments or Instagram DMs. There are way too many every day. I probably won't see it. So please make sure to send it to the official question submission page. Also, please make sure to visit us at englishclass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thanks very much for watching this episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next time. Bye! Want to master grammar so you can speak properly, express yourself better, and understand more? In this video, I'll show you how to master grammar with our lessons and learning program. Let's begin. Number 1, listen to the lesson conversations and explanations. In every lesson, you learn a conversation. Then, our teachers break down every word and grammar rule. So you're actually learning grammar rules in the context of conversations, and you can easily see how they're used. Once you're done, review the conversation again and again to remember what you've learned. Number 2, read the bonus explanations and tutorials. With the lesson notes, you get extra grammar explanations and examples that are not presented in the lesson. After you're done with the lesson, read the lesson notes for extra review. You can even save them as PDFs so that you can access them anytime. Number 3, leave a comment on the lesson. Once you've learned a grammar point, be sure to use it. Leave a comment in the comments section. Write some example sentences for practice. Our teachers will review your comment and give you feedback. Number 4, unlock even more grammar lessons. If you want to find all of the grammar lessons available, visit our lesson library. Under Category, choose Grammar. You'll get all of the pathways and lessons dedicated to helping you learn and master sentence patterns and grammar points. So, if you're ready to finally learn a new language the fast, fun, and easy way, sign up for your free lifetime account by clicking on the link in the description. Signing up takes less than 30 seconds, and you'll start speaking from your very first lesson. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share it with anyone who's trying to learn a new language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye! Hi everybody, welcome back to Ask Alicia, the weekly series where you ask me questions and I answer them. Maybe. Let's get to your first question this week. First question this week comes from Zara. Hi Zara, I hope I said your name correctly. Zara asked, hi Alicia, I'm wondering which one is correct to use. A, I have worked abroad for 2 years. B, I worked abroad for 2 years. Thanks for your lessons. I appreciate your work. Okay, your question is which is correct to use. So first I'll answer, both of these sentences are grammatically correct. but they communicate different things. So let's do a little bit of grammar review with these two example sentences that you have kindly provided us with. So let's take a look at A first. I have worked abroad for 2 years. This means you are still working abroad. I have worked abroad for 2 years sounds like you are still in the process of working abroad. A different way to say this is I have been working abroad for 2 years. This is one of the situations in which it's okay to use that progressive form, have been working, or not. You can choose, and we can understand the same meaning regardless of use of that progressive form or not. So if you say I have worked abroad for 2 years, it sounds like that's something that you're still doing. So the other situation in which you might see this grammar used is in, say, a job interview situation. If they ask about your work experience or your life experience, you might say something like, oh yes, I have worked abroad, to show that you have life experience. But in this situation, you wouldn't use for 2 years. Generally, we don't assign like a length of time to that kind of experience. Generally, when we want to express just that we've had the experience of doing something, like, oh, I have eaten that before, oh, I've been there before, we usually don't put a time with that experience. Usually that's in a follow-up question. So you might use just the beginning part of your example sentence, I have worked abroad, in a job interview situation, and that would be correct. So to sum up my response to example sentence A, I have worked abroad for 2 years sounds like you still work abroad. It's one way to express that. So let's compare this to example sentence B, I worked abroad for 2 years. This uses simple past tense, right? I worked abroad. This shows us that the action is done. You are finished with your work abroad experience, right? So you would use this after you come back to your home country and you tell people, oh, I worked abroad for 2 years. So it shows us it's done, it's over, this is part of the past, and it's no longer something I'm doing. You could also use this example sentence in a job interview to show that this was an experience you had in the past. It doesn't have quite that feel of life experience that I have worked abroad has, but just I worked abroad for 2 years can use that for 2 years part at the end of the sentence to express how long you did that action, that finished action. So I hope that this helps you understand the differences between these two grammar points. And again, I want to make it very clear, both of the sentences that you mentioned at the beginning are 100% correct. They just communicate two different things. The first sentence communicates that thing is continuing, and the second sentence communicates that thing has finished. So I hope this answers your question. Thanks very much for sending it along. And if you want, you can take a look at some present perfect tense example videos and tons of live streams and more, all on the YouTube channel. So check that out. Just do a quick search for present perfect tense for more about this topic. Okay, great. Let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Joelle. Hi, Joelle. Joelle says, hi, Alicia. Could you please explain the difference between harm and damage? Thanks so much. Okay, cool. So harm and damage, let's talk about these as verbs first. So both harm and damage can be used as verbs and as nouns, but I want to start by looking at the differences between these two words as verbs. Let's first talk about damage as a verb. So we can damage people and we can damage objects. So when we damage objects, for example, it's usually through some kind of physical act, like crushing that thing or hitting that thing. We do something to the object so that we cannot use it correctly, or there's something wrong with it, so wrong with it that it might be dangerous to use correctly. So for example, if you get into a car accident where two cars crash into each other, one car, actually probably both cars, might be damaged and they can no longer run. You can no longer use the car. So maybe the car is bent or parts of the car are broken and so we cannot use them. So to damage something else means to cause some kind of change in that thing that makes it unsafe to use or makes it maybe look really, really ugly. So to damage can be used in this way to talk about objects, of course. We can also use damage to talk about people, but when we use damage to talk about people, people, we sometimes use it to mean emotional damage. So that means we say something to someone else that causes them to change in some way, that causes them to feel hurt or to feel unhappy. And so we can call that emotional damage. So I'm using it as the noun here, but as a verb, we might say, oh, those comments really damaged me. So this shows that we can also use this kind of breaking kind of idea with our words to cause someone that emotional pain, right? So this is how we can use damage as a verb. So let's compare this to using harm as a verb. When we use harm as a verb, we typically do not use it to talk about objects. We don't say harming a building or harming a boat or harming a car or something like that. We use to harm to talk about people and perhaps animals as well. So when we harm someone else or when we harm an animal, that refers to causing pain to that person or causing pain to the animal. Like you might see a terrible news report that says that someone harmed a bunch of cats, which sounds like maybe they poisoned them, or maybe they did some terrible kind of experiment to the cats. So that means that they caused pain or maybe even killed creatures in some way. But harm means causing pain to another living thing. We don't really use harm with plants very much, I don't feel. We typically use it with people and with animals. So this is the difference with harm and damage as verbs. Now that we know kind of the difference between these as verbs, we can, I think, a little more easily understand the differences between these two words as nouns. So harm refers to like the result of a harmful action, right? So if someone does something that is very painful, or if someone does something like attacking somebody else, you receive harm from that. Like harm is the result of that. So, oh no, like don't do harm to other people is maybe a common expression that you might hear. On the other hand, damage, like we talked about before, can refer to this same sort of thing happening, but to objects. So you might hear, for example, oh, the house took a lot of damage in the storm, or the car took a lot of damage in the accident. So we often use that verb to take damage when we talk about damage as a noun. So you might hear these kinds of differences when you use the noun forms and when you use the verb forms of these words. So kind of a way to sum this up nicely is that we tend to use damage when we talk about objects, and we can also use it to talk about people, usually with our emotions. Harm, on the other hand, is used to talk about people and animals, living things, in other words. So I hope that this helps you understand the differences between harm and damage as nouns and as verbs. And of course, if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to let me know. Thanks for sending this interesting question along. Okay, let's move on to your next question. Next question comes from Roman Matovsky. Hi, Roman. Roman says, what's the difference between solitary, single, and lonely? Okay, good question. So let's start with solitary because it's maybe the least used of these words. So solitary generally means just one of something, and it can have a kind of negative kind of feel behind it sometimes. So we don't use solitary a whole lot unless we really want to emphasize that it's just one person or just one thing. So a great example of this that's kind of a little bit dark is like in the US judicial system, in the prison system, we have something called solitary confinement, which means one person in a small place for a very long time as part of punishment. So it's a type of jail. So solitary there is used to show it is just one person, just one cell, all by themselves kept inside. So that's what confinement means. You cannot move outside that space. So solitary there communicates that it is just one person. We really have that feeling of it just being one person in this case. You might hear solitary also used in times when maybe a storyteller or a writer wants to emphasize that really there's just one of something. They might say something like, there was a solitary person on the beach, which really sounds like, oh wow, there's really nobody else, just one person there. So if you really want to emphasize the just one of something, you can use solitary to do that. So with this in mind, let's move on to single. So single has a couple different uses. First, we use single a lot to talk about someone who is not married or not in a relationship. We can say he is single or she is single, which means they don't have a partner or they are unmarried. So single is used in this way. We can also use single to mean one of something, but it doesn't have this same feeling of just one, like emphasis on just one, that solitary does. So if you want to order something at a restaurant, you might say, can I get like a single serving of fries, please? Which means I just want one of that thing. It doesn't sound as serious as solitary. So we use solitary when we're usually talking about like people, maybe kind of like some kind of artistic or natural sort of thing. But when we use single, like I want a single serving of that, we use it just to mean one of that thing without kind of the heavy feeling that solitary has. So these are the two uses of single. Lastly then, let's talk about lonely. So lonely is an emotion. So when we feel lonely, we feel like we want to have some kind of social engagement. We want to talk to our friends, we want to see somebody, but nobody is around at that time. And very common human emotion, right? So when we want to express that feeling, we can say, I feel lonely. You would use this grammatically the same way you would any other emotion word, like I feel happy, or I feel sad, or I feel angry, right? I feel lonely. So we would not use, for example, solitary or single in this way. So we cannot use those as emotion words because they are not emotion words. Lonely, however, is an emotional experience. I feel lonely, or he seems lonely. She's been lonely lately. So these communicate an emotional experience. They are completely different from solitary and single, which mean just one of something. So these are the differences between solitary and single and lonely. A quick introduction to these. I hope this answers your question. Thanks so much for sending it along. All right, that is everything that I have for this week. So thank you as always for sending your great questions. Remember, you can send them to me at EnglishClass101.com/ask-Alicia. Also, the link for this is in the YouTube description. So please make sure to send your questions to that official question submission page. Don't put them in Instagram DMs or in YouTube or Facebook comments. There are way too many and I cannot see them all. So please send it to the official question submission page. I will definitely read your question and I might choose to include it in the series. So thanks so much for watching this week's lesson. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, come check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this week's episode of Ask Alicia, and I will see you again next time. Bye! Expand your vocabulary with our core 2,000 words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free English ebook before it's gone.